Recording in progress.
Hi
Hi
everyone.
everyone.
Hope you're
Hope
doing
you're
good.
doing good.
Today we
Today
have
we have
Marlo with
Marlo with
us, who
us,
is going
who's
to
going
share
to share
our
our
her
her
journey
journey
with
with
everyone.
everyone.
Welcome, Marlo. How are you doing?
I'm well. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good too. So, welcome to Kidney Talkies, and you're our first person to be officially on the podcast. How do you feel about it? Uh, you're
You're
you're on
you're on
mute.
mute.
Okay. I think I'm unmuted now. Is that good?
Yes.
Yes.
How do you
How
feel,
do you feel,
Marlo, to
Marlo,
be
to
on the
be on
first
the first
podcast?
podcast?
I am actually really excited and I just love talking with you, so I'm excited to do this.
Okay,
Okay,
so the
so the
first
first
question is
question is
that
that
could you
could you
tell
tell
our
our
audience a
audience
little
a
bit
little bit
about
about
yourself and
yourself
your
and
kidney
your kidney
journey?
journey?
Sure. Like Deepti said, my name is Marlo. The way it started with my kidney journey, it started when I was 19 years old, and I had just started college. And I remember just started getting ulcers in the mouth, and they wouldn't go away. And I had a unique thing happen with my kidney journey is that my left arm actually froze and was stuck at a 45-degree angle, and the doctor couldn't straighten it out. And we didn't know what that was, but we eventually found out that, once I turned 20 and I saw some more specialists, we found out that it was lupus. Then eventually, I found out that my lupus was lupus nephritis. And then actually when I was 25, my kidneys failed and I began dialysis. And then by the time I turned 28, my doctors felt that I should try for a transplant. And I did. And actually, my dad decided he wanted to try to be a donor. And it actually worked out that he was the best donor I could ever have. He was a perfect match outside of him being a guy and I'm being a girl. The doctors considered it a perfect match, specifically for our blood types as well. And I just celebrated my 22nd kidney transplant anniversary on May 21st. So I'm doing quite well.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing this journey and important highlights. Hopefully, it helps many people who are navigating through the kidney journey to understand and relate the things to you. And I'm sorry to hear that you were diagnosed and had to undergo so much as a 20-year-old person due to the kidney disease. My next question is that what were some of the earliest signs or symptoms that something was wrong, that you felt like that could help our audience listening, so that when they are in the same situation, they can go to the doctor or consult a specialist also?
Sure. So the first symptom I had was ulcers in the mouth. They would not go away. So they started like the fall of my 19th year. I was 19, and they did not go away for at least a year. Then it was a butterfly rash during the summer. That next summer, swollen, painful joints, a, what felt like a flu, but it would not heal. I just stayed sick. And after that, I believe when I think back, after that, my pediatrician's physician assistant actually began to do the work of trying to find out what was happening. And eventually, I did have the psychosis experience. I've had, the rash, the joints, the swelling, the loss of hair, just all the symptoms that you could have. I had them. But initially, it was just actually sores in the mouth that would not go away. Yeah. I would say get checked. If you have at least two of those, two to three, I would say get checked. Just press, ask and ask and ask. Hmm.
Wow, this is interesting. I did not know that because when my kidneys failed, I never had any of those symptoms. This is interesting to learn about how there are too many different types of symptoms which reflect a person is suffering from kidney disease. Thank you so much for educating us about this. My third question is that what was the most difficult part of living with the kidney disease?
I think for me, the most difficult part was I didn't realize that as the disease advanced, how much it affected your blood pressure, right? For a while, I thought some things seemed to be just lupus related, right? And so when I would ask the physicians I had at this time, by the time my kidneys failed, I was 25. So I had a different type of insurance. And unfortunately, just my doctors weren't that great. They didn't, I didn't know what to look for, right? So I'm thinking my severe fatigue, my the infections I'm having, I thought that all those things were normal, and I did not realize they weren't normal. So, just unfortunately, I didn't have anyone to tell me that. And what happened was I went to get labs because I was encouraged by my mom to go get labs. Like something is wrong. She kept saying, you need to get labs. And so I did. And when I got the labs, I picked up the results. There was a young lady who had circled a number and she said, your doctors need to look at this. I was like, oh, okay. I'm 25. I'm thinking, okay, I just need to get back to work. And so I took the at that time you took your paperwork to the doctor where I was getting labs. And what I did notice is that the creatinine it said creatinine 4.8. I still have those paperwork. It said creatinine 4.8. Now you and I both know now if your creatinine is 4.8, you are in trouble. But no one called me, no one told me anything, no one said anything. So by the time I went into kidney failure, I was kind of shocked in a way. So I think the hardest part of living with kidney disease is sometimes not knowing what the symptoms look like for you and then knowing what to do with that.
I
I
totally
totally
agree with
agree
you.
with
That
you. That
happens with a
happens
lot
with
of
a lot of
people, to be
people, to be
honest.
honest.
Yeah.
So I
So I
hope
hope
with this
with
talk
this
it
talk
can
it can
help,
help,
even if it
even if
helps
it
one
helps one
person,
person,
we will be
we will
really
be.
glad. And since you're post transplant, I don't know how much this would be valid, but I definitely want to know that even if you were on the dialysis or even post transplant, how does kidney disease impact your daily life, your relationship, your career, and any kind of a education and the work you are currently doing?
So one thing I learned, I think this is such a great question, Deep Deep, because one thing I learned once I was transplanted, my transplant nephrologist explained to me, although you have a transplant, you still have kidney disease. And I thought, wow, are you sure? He was like, yeah, kidney disease does not go away because you have a transplant. So, one, you still have to watch your salt intake. You still need to be careful about how you exercise, how you eat. But one thing I know I had to do, and he encouraged, just like I had to increase my water because I had gotten used to being on dialysis. I had gotten used to just drinking less. So what I had to do was increase water. Another thing that I think changed me was also, and I think this changed me for the good, was that I learned that even in the midst of transplant or in the midst of kidney failure, in the midst of dialysis, and all of those things that came with it, you can learn to do new things. If you want to live, you will learn to do new things. Right. So those were some of the things. And that sticks with me today. If I want to live, I have got to learn new things. And so that has really helped me.
That is such a great inspiration, to be honest, Marlo. And if you could elaborate more for our audience, that would be nice. Like, what are some of the new things people on the kidney disease can learn?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things that you can learn to do when you have chronic kidney disease is you learn how to eat different. You have to. There are no options. You change your portions. You may change your portions. You learn how to be compliant to whatever the nutrition is. And most of us, well, I know my experience was, when I was on dialysis, specifically hemodialysis, I had a nutritionist and she would talk to me about eating and my fluid restrictions and no potatoes, no orange juice, no ice cream, no milk, all the things. And at first I was like, oh no, my life, my life. But you know what? I learned to do different, Deepti. I did. And that's why after dialysis and during dialysis, I'll say I started to think about this saying that they have sometimes here in the States is that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And I'm thinking, no, that is not true. I see all these old people in this dialysis unit, they are doing the new things. Yes, they are. They are, right? And so you can do whatever you have to do to live. You can. And you know what? You really will. Yeah.
That's interesting and impressive. Talking about another new skills. Your background is pretty interesting. Could you please elaborate more on that part?
Yeah, so my background is saying, of course, my name, Marlo Hogue. And then I usually go by this saying called Radiant, the Warrior Encourager. So I just love encouraging people with chronic illness to just look, go ahead and get through. You might as well get through it. You got to get through it anyway. So breathe deep and walk through. And then it just says that, I'm a Bible teacher and then I'm a healthcare trust advocacy. So I'm really big on quality patient doctor relationships and how that starts with the patient being able to trust the doctor and why that's so important. And then I have this rose because there's something my dad would always say, as beautiful as a rose is, it always has thorns. So even in the beauty, there'll be some hard spots. So just, sometimes you got to pick the thorns off, or sometimes you have to grab it and go. So either way, yeah, it's still beauty, but there are thorns involved.
My goodness, you're pretty impressive, and I'm pretty much blown away by your thinking. And thank you so much for being here and sharing your experience. And can you share a little bit of experience about your treatment? How long were you on dialysis? What dialysis you were doing? And when in about the transplant, how do you manage your medication and any other things you do to manage your health, which you feel would help any patient trying to deal with a chronic kidney disease can benefit?
Sure. So I started dialysis when I was 25, and I started it in the ICU. Just what a crazy experience, right? You just trying to live, and next thing you know, you have catheters and you're on dialysis, right? So I started dialysis a week after my 25th birthday, and like I said, it was a shock. It was a surprise. I didn't understand it. I didn't even know what dialysis was. I just didn't know what was happening. Right. So, but anyway, I started, and I eventually left the hospital about, I would say I went in the hospital July 25th and I came out after September 11th. So I was in the hospital for a long time, and I came out, and I remember going into the dialysis unit, and I remember just how hard it was. Just it was a challenge. No one prepared me for it, but I don't know if anyone really could have. It often felt like living and dying at the same time. It was the most unbelievable feeling. It really made me almost maybe neurotic. By the third day at the dialysis unit away from the hospital, I remember trying to get up and just take the tubes out because I didn't like the way I was feeling. And I just remember there was a gentleman sitting next to me, and his name was Mr. Adrian. I'll never forget this. And he said to me, he called me little sister. He didn't know me, I didn't know him. And he saw me trying to get up because it's the oddest feeling when you first start. And he said to me, and it has changed my world. He said, listen, he said, little sister, you either lay back and go to sleep, watch TV, or read a book. And he said, because if you don't, you are going to die. And I remember thinking, what? And he said, no, you're going to die if you don't do that. And so that kind of changed me. And the nurse had me ask the doctor, or the nurse asked my physician for something that would help me relax and take my treatments. So it took a while before I adapted. It was hard, it was challenging, but eventually within 9 months, I was more at ease. All right. So I was able to work through dialysis. I started becoming immediately compliant, let the salt go. And my mom was cooking my meals. So she was like, no salt, no this, no that, no salt. I was like, but it worked. Right. And so I did that. I also had to do what they call cytoxin treatments, which is a form of chemo So I did that for a little bit of time. And, I got the shingles from that. I had so many infections from that. I lost all my hair from that. And then by that time also, I had to learn how to take medication. I had been a really healthy person before I was diagnosed with lupus. By the time I got to kidney failure, I wasn't so healthy. So I went from taking just prednisone to taking prednisone, four types of blood pressure meds because my blood pressure was uncontrollable. And I was just so heavily medicated. And I remember thinking, you can do this. Because my mother had said something to me that was so awesome. My mother said to me, you've got to make a choice that you're going to live until you die. And I said, wow. And it just kind of, things just started clicking in my head like, you have got to do this. And so there was the dialysis, there was the cytoxin treatments. I had about 13 surgeries on dialysis. It was crazy. My hair was cut off. Then I had to learn to take medication. And I was learning how to walk again. I was learning how to feed myself in whole spoons again. So it was a lot. But when I look back at it, it was the necessary so that I could live, right? So, yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about that. To be honest, it's you had a hard time. And since you mentioned there were a lot of tough moments and low moments during this entire treatment, what is something that you think helped you most to get through the tough moments, which you would really like to acknowledge so that can help any other patient in the same journey?
So there were a couple things, right? So one, I'm a person of faith, so I believe that all things happen and they make me better and it all works out in the end. The second thing was I had a brother who loved music and he would create music and I had always been a songwriter, so he would send me with these music and I would put it in like a little CD player. He would put it on a CD. That's when we had CDs. And I had a little CD player, and he would always ask me, well, what do you think about this? And he was really young. And so what happened was, after I got out of the hospital, I couldn't go home just yet. So I went to stay with my one of my cousins, and she was a dialysis nurse. So I stayed at her house for a while. And my brother, he was about 15 years old, he came and he stayed with me. So he gave up all his life and he stayed with me and he was making music. And so I would take that music with me to dialysis and I would sit back and instead of going to sleep, I would write music. I would write lyrics to songs. That helped me a lot. I would journal. I would sit down and I would journal and write out my thoughts and what was happening to me and how I was getting through. I would write out my prayers I had, and eventually, by the first year, I went back to work. So I would go to dialysis, listen to music, do journaling, and I would get up, brush my teeth, go to the bathroom, and then I would go right to work. And I worked with young people and teaching young people. So all those things helped me because I had something to do. I did something I was interested in. I had a job. And I decided I was going to go ahead and get through this. It was decided. Yeah.
This is interesting, to be honest. When I was diagnosed with the kidney failure, I started attending a lot of music events, and I did not even know before that I could actually sing. And I don't know, like, if we should collaborate on that. I partnered with few of my friends, and we created like a small video with a Hindi song to asking for a kidney donor for myself.
I love that. I love that. Girl, please let me hear that. I know that was amazing. Oh,
And
I know that was
I can send
amazing.
you the link of that after that, but probably I think now since we are post-transplant, we should resume that project and probably create like a second version of that after transplant.
That would be perfect.
This is pretty interesting. And if you could go back and speak to yourself on the day you were diagnosed, what advice you would give to your younger self now?
You know what? If this is something I think about, if I could, I remember when the rheumatologist, and I'll say this, the rheumatologist was the last specialist that my physician assistant, and I was still with the pediatric doctor, right? So here I'm 19, and she was the last specialist that my pediatrician's PA had on the list. And so I saw her on a Friday. I saw her at the end of the week. I was in a wheelchair. I was just like, I'm dying. I remember just riding my wheel and everything when I got home because the doctor was like, Miss Hogue, her body is shutting down. We've got to get this figured out. So, anyhow, we get home. They've done the labs. I see her on Monday. She says, I know what it is. She said, I know exactly what we call this. This is called lupus. And I remember my mom and I just crying and crying and crying because not out of sorrow, but actually out of relief because there was a name, right? You know how you finally know what's happening. And I remember when I got in the car with my mom to go home, my mom said, listen here. She said, I want you to, one, we're going to trust God. I said, yes, ma'am. And then she said, number two, you have got to make the choice that you are going to live until you die. And that thing resonated with me. You will live until you can't live anymore. So to me, that meant you will push through. You will get up every day on purpose and try to make it to the end of the day. You will go to bed and do the same thing tomorrow. Make it to the end. You will go to bed. And so I would say that to anybody who is newly diagnosed. Okay, you know what it's called. Now let's make a decision. I am going to work through this day, and then I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to figure out this hurts, don't do this. I'm going to figure out this is harder to do, so maybe I need more strength. But I'm going to figure out how I'm going to make it to the end of the day and then do it again. Yeah.
This is amazing. I mean, this is not the planned question, but I wanted to ask if you have to give any advices to especially the women community going through the kidney disease, what would you give them?
To the community going through the kidney disease, this is what I
Especially
would
the
say.
women.
Yeah, the woman. And I love this that you asked this because I do get to talk to a lot of women who are newly diagnosed, and we talk a lot. And one thing I say to them is this, and when I say this, Deepti, you will know exactly what I mean. I say to them, be compliant, do what's asked of you. If there are restrictions, follow the restrictions. If there's food you cannot eat, don't eat it. Whatever they tell you about drinking, do it. And then take care of your complete self and rest. As much a responsibility that you can delegate to someone else, do it because you will need your sleep. Your body is literally fighting for its life in a lot of ways. You have got to take care of yourself. Yeah, I would definitely say that.
Thank you so much. And now let's ask some rapid fire questions to you. Um, what describes your kidney journey?
I would say transformative. Yeah.
What is the biggest misconception about kidney disease?
I would say that it's not serious. I don't think people realize how serious it is. Yeah.
One habit that has improved your health?
Speaking up. And speaking up to telling your doctors what you need to tell them. Yeah.
What is your favorite comfort food during the treatment?
So during dialysis, actually, my favorite comfort food when I got home was toast with a little bit of olive oil drizzled on it. Yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah.
Uh, can you name one person that has inspired you?
Oh yeah. I actually this is going to be two people. My parents. My parents. Yeah.
And what is your favorite tourist destination?
What is my favorite destination?
Yes.
Ooh. Actually, I love Italy. Italy is my favorite destination to fly to or do anything is Italy. Yeah.
And last question. Describe Marlo in one word.
Oh wow. I would say vibrant. Yeah, I would say vibrant.
Thank you so much, Marlo,
Yeah, thank
for
you for
your
having me.
time.